بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I would like to welcome you here in this scientific session, and I would like to thank all the organizer committees who have been organizing this scientific event very well. Special thanks goes to Jamjoom Pharma for supporting this scientific event. And I'm very sure today is a very unique day. Why? Because we are going to talk about a very important topic, which is really new to all of us, and yet did not get the right interest or the right effort to disseminate the importance of the probiotics in our clinical practice. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, this event is under the partnership of the Saudi Society for Family and Community Medicine. And I would like to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Ashraf Amir. I'm a consultant in family medicine in the International Medical Center. I'm the Vice President of the Saudi Society for Family and Community Medicine. So special thanks also goes to ملتقى الخبرات لتنظيم المعارض والمؤتمرات for the well organizations that we are witnessing today. And I hope that this session will be quite fruitful for all of you. And of course, as you know, that the human intestine harbors a complex microbial ecosystem consisting of extraordinary numbers of commensal bacteria existing in the host. And with these kind of bacteria, they provide us with a lot of symbiotic relationship that impact our physiological functions, which include a lot of things that is related to the nutritional exchange and the control of epithelial cell proliferations and differentiation, and also stimulate our immune system. Unfortunately, many of us as a primary care physician, we did not come across this kind of new modalities of treatment. And when we talk about the comprehensive way of managing our patients, of course, we have a lot of medications, but still there is a lot of other medications like complement medicines and probiotics on top of it, of course, that will add a real value. And this is what we are going to witness today. So today, our objective is to understand the basic ideas about the probiotic and the prebiotic, and to learn the characteristic of classifications of probiotics and prebiotics and the different potential use that we can adapt it in our primary health care. Not only this, but also we are going to learn the rule of effect of the probiotic in human health, not only in the treatment, but also in the prevention and enhancement of the immune system. For this, ladies and gentlemen, we have been privileged today to be joined with a very distinguished faculty. We have Dr. Matthew Tracy. He's a director of Functional Medicine and Wellness Center in the International Medical Center. Dr. Abdul Halim al-Sharif, he's also a consultant gastroenterologist and hepatologist, head of the endoscopy of Dr. Samir Abbas in Jeddah. And we have Dr. Myung So Park. He is a food microbiology and biotechnology, molecular biology of the genus Bifidobacterium, and he has an extensive work in probiotics. So with this gathering of our distinguished faculty, I'm sure that we will have a very wonderful opportunity to learn more and to exchange knowledge and expertise in this new field. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker, who is Dr. Tracy Matthew. Dr. Tracy Matthew, he's a director of the Functional Medicine and Wellness Center in the International Medical Center in Jeddah, a certified functional medicine practitioner, osteopathy, acupuncture, and oriental medicine with more than 27 years of experience in holistic integrative medicine. As the first functional medicine practitioner in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, he is currently involved in practice of seeing patients as well as teaching established professionals, including me, by the way, and the next generations of physicians, how to add functional medicine to the practice. Dr. Matthew is a board certified in anti-aging medicine from American Academy of Anti-Aging and Regenerative Medicine, Prior to the current position, he was a private practice in South Florida, United States, for more than 15 years. Of course, Dr. Matthew is a very active in teaching as a teaching faculty in our Department of Family Medicine. He has a lot of contribution in the research and publications, and I'm sure that his presentation today will add a lot of insight for all of us. So he's going to talk about the science-based evidence on the applications and the benefits of probiotic for human health. On your behalf, I would like to welcome Dr. Matthew Tracy, and I would like to thank him for accepting our invitation for tonight. Dr. Matthew, the floor is yours.
Okay. Which one? All right. Awesome. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, I see a lot more people. I was sitting in the front row. I couldn't see everybody behind me, so very nice. And from what I understand, we have like 5,000 people online, so that's great. Does anybody here use probiotics currently? Okay, a few. Everybody in the front row. Okay. Has anybody done any research with regards to the microbiome? No? Okay, good. So when I was putting this lecture together, I was asked to do a lecture on the science-based evidence on the application and benefits of probiotics, right? So for any of you who have done lectures like this, you start preparing your lecture, you start working on these slides, and then you start thinking, wait a second, but what's everybody's basic knowledge with regards to probiotics and the microbiome? Do they understand enough of it, or have they practiced enough or researched enough of it to where they would understand even what I'm talking about with regards to probiotics? So, you know, it's this big rabbit hole you start going down. Next thing you know, you have 400 slides, and you're going, wait a second, they only gave me 30 minutes. How am I going to do this? So anyway, there's a lot of slides here. I hope the organizing committee is going to provide them to you. If not, I'll give you my email address, and you're more than welcome. I would just give you all of them because we're not going to have time to cover every little tiny bit of evidence. I am including every shred of evidence there. So links to all of the different research articles and everything else for your benefit. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, it's not doing anything. All right, clicker's not working. Anybody? Oh, it's not working over here. Oh, there it goes. Now it is. All right, good. All right, so no disclosures, no conflicts of interest. Okay, it is. Okay, which one? There it goes. Now it moved. It's just a little bit delayed, it looks like. Okay, now it's working. Okay. You all heard this saying before, right? The stomach is the house of disease. Anybody heard that before? Yes? No? Of course, come on. Participate a little bit. It makes it a lot easier up here, you know? So also Hippocrates, all disease begins in the gut. I don't think we had even a slight inkling of what those you know, the actual depth of what that meant until recently we started really looking into the microbiome. You know, if you ask most doctors in the past, what does this mean? They say, oh yeah, well, if you eat too much, you get sick. No, it's so much deeper than that, which is what you're going to find out soon. Okay, come on. We might need a new battery here or something. Okay, there we go. So even as far back as 20 years ago, 20 some odd years ago, it was realized that we have to take into consideration, if we're talking about personalized medicine, we can't do it without taking into consideration the gut microbiome. Lots of diseases. Again, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, okay? So, but you don't have to worry about taking pictures, anything. I will provide you the slides. Lots of disorders associated with altered microbiome, okay? Various functions of the microbiome. You have protective functions, you have structural functions. Dr. Ashraf Amir already went through some of these, so it makes my job a whole lot easier now. Pathogen displacement, nutrient competition, receptor competition. Remember, these things are fighting for their lives inside of you, right? So also metabolic functions, we're going to go over a few of those. Barrier fortification by producing secretory IgA, also tightening of the tight junctions. Listen, we can go through a whole week-long symposium just on the metabolic functions of the microbiome. They produce short-chain fatty acids. As you know, the short-chain fatty acids are the primary energy source for the enterocytes. Pretty important, right? froze again. Okay. Let's see, did we get there? Okay. Metabolism of different chemicals and steroid hormones, biotransformation, also degradation of dietary oxalates and regulation of lipid absorption. LPS are endotoxins on gram-negative bacteria in the gut. They can cause inflammation, mitochondrial dysfunction, increased sensitization to pain. Anybody treat fibromyalgia patients? Yes, no? Yes? All right, I see one yes. Come on, and most of you guys do, I'm sure you do. So there is a lot of research linking that to a microbial origin. And most likely it has something to do with this, with increased LPS migrating through a leaky gut lining and then causing the inflammatory response. Bacteria produce lactic acid, bacteria produce hydrogen sulfide, you have bacteria produce tryptophanase, which can lead to tryptophan deficiency, and then downstream, what? Serotonin and melatonin deficiency as well. Okay, can't talk about the gut microbiome without at least mentioning the mouth, right? As you'll see here, so there are several diseases associated with changes in the oral microbiome, even rheumatoid arthritis. There's some studies where they found certain bacteria in the mouth that were causing gingivitis was actually found in the synovial membrane of rheumatoid arthritis patients. So don't forget to check the mouth of your patients. This was really interesting, I thought. So frequent regular use of over-the-counter mouthwash was associated with increased risk of hypertension, independent of other major risk factors, okay? So if your patients come in with hypertension and they have good smelling breath, maybe you want to ask them a few more questions. Basically what happens, you have these nitrate reducing bacteria in your mouth. Yes, you want to chew your food thoroughly so that it makes it easier for digestion, but that also mixes those nitrate reducing bacteria with those nitrates, reducing them to nitrite, and that's the first step in nitric oxide production, which dilates the blood vessels, right? And reduces hypertension. This study, I was actually having lunch with one of the authors here at a conference in Miami a couple years back. And in this one, he says, twice daily chlorhexidine usage was associated with significant increase in systolic blood pressure after just 1 week of use. 1 week. So, yeah, pretty extreme. Any GI doctors here? Any GI? Everybody family medicine? All right, is there any family medicine doctors here? Come on, I know there is. Nobody's raising their hand. All right, has anybody heard of autobrewery syndrome? This is a really cool one. I've seen 3 cases actually in my 25 years. 2 in the United States. I saw one here in Jeddah actually too, which is a shame. Unfortunately, he came to see me. He already had retinal damage and was blind from ethanol poisoning. But he had been to several other physicians. He's been to several hospitals here in Jeddah. Won't mention the names. But they kept saying he's a liar, he's an alcoholic, he needs rehab. Unfortunately, when he said, I don't drink, they just said, you need rehab, you need, you're in denial. Anyway, he had yeast overgrowth in his intestines, and his diet consisted mostly of refined carbohydrates. What do you need to make ethanol? Yeast and carbohydrate, right? So just for your useless knowledge that you keep in the back of your mind, just in case anybody like that comes to you. Major influences of the microbiome starts with vaginal versus C-section birth and goes on from there. The most common reason for death of the good bacteria is antibiotic use. I know when I first came here about 10, 12 years ago, you could buy antibiotics without a prescription. And people were taking them like candy, man. It was any sniffle, oh, take some antibiotics really quick. What did that do to their microbiome? I can tell you, I've done a lot of comprehensive stool analysis here, and I can tell you they're really jacked up. They reduce bacterial diversity. They can enable intrusion of pathogenic organisms as well. Also, some medications, you guys use some of these medications? Every day, right? Well, from a functional medicine standpoint now, I practice functional medicine, so we're always looking at upstream and downstream effects of whatever we do. So, what you did yesterday is going to affect today, what you do today is going to affect tomorrow. So take that in consideration when you are giving these medications, and then they come back later on with some other problems. Again, other medications that are associated with the composition of the microbiome. Artificial sweeteners also can lead to glucose intolerance in mice and humans. because of their effect on the microbiome. Stress alters the microbiome. Thank God none of us have any stress, right? No stress? Okay. Early life stress alters the enteric microbiome with effects persisting into childhood. Lactobacillus and bifidum bacteria were decreased in early life stress. Again, exposure significantly decreased Bacteroides and increased Clostridium. Now, when there's this delicate balance with all the microbes, and it's the balance between them and themselves and each other, and the balance between them and you. I don't usually like to use the word good and bad bacteria because they're just bacteria. They're there, they're doing a function, right? Now, there are some that are pathogenic, yes, but as far as the commensals, yes, you have even Klebsiella, things like this. If they're too much, they can cause issues, but they are a normal commensal bacteria. Dysbiosis overview. Now, some of these definitions I disagree with a little bit, but I'll tell you why. So a shift in the microbiome that causes drastic imbalance between beneficial and pathogenic microbes. Of course, it's not just pathogenic and it's not just bacteria, it's all kinds of microbes, right? Don't forget this saying, a pathogenic inflammatory response to a non-pathogenic microbe, okay? You can have an imbalance in the flora itself. You can have changes in their functional composition, metabolic activities, or their local distribution. What happens when you get what is normal in the large intestine migrates up into the small intestine? What do you call that? SIBO, right? Not good. Now, this also different types of dysbiosis. You can see, yes, I realize it says 3 different types and there's 4, but that's because the 4th one I added. It wasn't from the paper. Loss of beneficial organisms. You can have excessive growth of potential harmful organisms, loss of overall microbial diversity, and loss of tolerance towards commensal microbes. This was the part that I added. That's why it's not always a pathogenic microbe. You can have a pathogenic response to a non-pathogenic microbe. And those rarely happen by themselves. They're usually multitudes of them happening together. Different contributors are basically the same as the contributors to the microbiome. Various common deficiencies in dysbiosis. Again, don't worry, you can go through all of these later on. I'm not going to go through one by one, but I just want to show you the evidence to show that, hey, this isn't stuff that just started like yesterday. This has been around for decades. People have been talking about it. It's just getting a lot more push nowadays. There's all the references for that previous slide. Any treatment of dysbiosis should have 3 major components. One is microbe-specific, whether they be natural or pharmaceutical, it doesn't matter, antimicrobials. Restoration of immune function, making the host less hospitable, because again, those microbes are just there because you're giving them the perfect environment to flourish. If you change that environment, they will change. Promotion of immune tolerance. In functional medicine, we have what's called the 5R treatment plan, or 4R if you leave out the rebalance. Remove has to do with removing pathogenic organisms, allergic foods, food sensitivities, food intolerances, lactose intolerance, things like that. Then you have replace, which is replacing things that you may be missing, such as digestive enzymes, vitamins, lipotrophic factors, stuff like that. If you have a case where they have hypochlorhydria, which by the way is a lot more common than hyper. Just gonna throw that out there. We can spend a whole symposium just on that, but we're not talking about PPIs today. So in a case like this, you can try something like betaine hydrochloride. Some of these patients will say that they feel better if they take like apple cider vinegar with their meals or something. Well, that's a clear sign that they have actual hypochlorhydria instead. Effects of different vitamin supplementation in the microbiome. Repairing the intestinal lining, the tight junctions, things like that. There's a lot of different nutrients that can help you with that. Rebalance, this is stress reduction, better sleep, that kind of stuff. Getting yourself back in balance as well as the microbes. Now this they call repopulate, reinoculate. This has to do with probiotics. Here we are. Now, one of the issues I have with that repopulate, reinoculate term is that that's more accurate when you're talking about like FMT, fecal microbiota transfer. Are they doing that here yet or no? In Saudi Arabia? Are they doing that at all yet? Fecal microbiota transplant? FMT, are they doing it here? I know there was some, they were talking about it in Riyadh maybe 2 years ago. I use the term reestablish instead because you're trying to just reestablish balance there. Now, so there's varying theories with regards to probiotics and the microbiome. Traditionally, it was like that whole re-inoculation or trying to repopulate the gut with the right microbes. So they were thinking, okay, if I give you this microbe, if I give you lactobacilli, and then we see lactobacilli going up in your fecal microbiome, that means that lactobacilli that I gave you is now repopulated and now colonized in the gut. But they followed up that with some genetic studies where they put genetic markers on these probiotics, and then when they took them, they found, yes, they took lactobacilli and lactobacilli increased, but it wasn't the same genetic marker. So what was going on there, all right? Now remember, all of these microbes, they still have all those metabolic functions we talked about. So they are crowding out microbes that shouldn't be there, pathogenic microbes, dysbiotic microbes. Let's say, now, for instance, as far as probiotics, they are in this transient part. So microbes in food, air, and water. Then you have variable that varies by diet, season, medications, and stuff like that. So what they found was that even though you're taking this probiotic, it is now competing for food, competing for living space and everything else, right? Fighting for its life. And that is now going to push away some of these lesser wanted microbes, let's say. And at the same time, because of their metabolic functions, they are going to be producing a medium, a place where this core microbiome now can flourish. So now you have increase of lactobacilli, but it's because this probiotic actually influenced the medium in which it was growing and allowed it to grow, okay? Everybody getting that? So now there were a couple studies where certain strains they found did actually repopulate. But from what I found, the majority of them was actually working through immunomodulation and through the various metabolic functions of those microbes. Anyway, that's that one. A lot of talk for one slide. Okay, come on. Okay, everybody's heard you are what you eat, right? Well, you are what your microbiome eats as well. Out of everything that influences the microbiome, from age, genetics, and everything else, diet is by far the easiest and the most profound. I mean, like, hands down, nothing even comes close to comparing to it. You can see here, in 24 hours, changes in the diet can cause large shifts in the microbiome. Only 24 hours. This other study, within 1 to 2 days, there were major alterations when they switched them from meat, egg, and cheese and switched them to grains, legumes, and vegetables. So again, between 24 and 48 hours, you can have major changes in the whole microbiome just by changing the diet. Why is that? You change the food. So if this one likes fried food and this one likes vegan food, well, you're only serving this, they're gonna leave the restaurant, right? And the same thing, this is basically what happens inside the gut. Now you got Western diet, gluten-free diet, Mediterranean diet, vegan diet. Now, how many of you eat gluten-free? Anybody? Nobody? Has anybody ever recommended gluten-free to anybody? Okay. Does anybody love the smell of fresh baked bread? All right, now everybody's hand goes up, all right. Now, read this study here. It says gluten-free diet, healthy bacteria decreased, unhealthy bacteria increased. Why in the heck would you ever tell them to follow a gluten-free diet then, right? It sounds really unhealthy, right? Yeah? Be careful what you read. Read between the lines. What happens, for any of you who have actually recommended a gluten-free diet, first thing they're gonna say is, well, what am I gonna eat? If you tell them they can't eat bread anymore, right? You think it's like the whole diet, but no, it's such a big, it's like crack cocaine, smelling fresh baked bread. And it is very addictive like that. So it stimulates certain pleasure centers in the brain. Now you tell them, okay, you can't eat regular bread anymore, you gotta go gluten-free. So they try gluten-free bread. All right, another question. Has anybody ever eaten gluten-free bread? Anybody tried it? Don't, it doesn't taste very good. So they eat it and they're like, it didn't really stimulate those pleasure centers as well as the regular bread did. So I'm gonna look for some other gluten-free things. So let me get some gluten-free cake, gluten-free cookies, gluten-free pastries, and all of this. Now their whole cupboard is filled with gluten-free products and they think, wow, this is healthy. But what happened to their overall diet now? It shifted to a highly refined carbohydrate, high starch diet. Now if I change the headline there for the gluten-free diet and I say instead, high starch, refined carbohydrate diet. Now it makes sense, doesn't it? So you can have a gluten-free diet that is healthy. You can have a gluten-free diet that is extremely unhealthy. My bet is these were the latter. So you got to be careful when you're reading scientific studies even, unfortunately. Okay. Other dietary changes and the effects that they have on bacteria. Probiotic definition, live organisms that when administered in amounts, in adequate amounts, confer health benefit on the host. Another one, which I actually go a little bit more towards this one, but non-pathogenic microbes that when ingested exert a positive influence on the host. So this one, or physiology, this one does not mention the word live. Well, we know because of the different functions of the microbes and everything that which I think I went over that before, or I will in a second, with lipopolysaccharides, with the cell membranes, how they interact with toll-like receptors, which can then stimulate an inflammatory response. So even the dead bacteria, which I think I have a slide on that, is going to, their benefit is mostly not the metabolic functions, because obviously they're metabolic, nothing, they're not functioning. So, but they will still interact immunologically and they will cause immunomodulation. So. Prebiotics, I'm sure that a lot of this stuff is going to be talked about by the other speakers, but since I didn't know what they were exactly talking about, I figured my thing is I want to make sure that at least you have a good round understanding of all of it so that it can help you tomorrow when you're in the office, right? Everybody knows what prebiotics are. It's the stuff that you don't digest that is good for the microbes, basically. When you're talking about probiotics, there are certain effects that are widespread. Basically, every probiotic has most of these effects. Then you have frequent, which is more species level. So you have phylum, you have species, then you have specific strains, okay? So in the frequent ones, not the widespread, but frequent, they're more species level. This has to do with vitamin synthesis, direct antagonism. So if you have a particular microbe you're trying to get rid of, you might be able to do that by giving another microbe, especially if you do a stool analysis and you find that microbe is low. Then you can actually justify doing it. And then you have rare, which is strain specific. And I'm sure that's going to be talked about later on, I believe, right? I think so. Practical issues, well, not well regulated. Sorry, this is the devil's advocate part. And a lot of preparations on the market. Which ones do you use? Well, you use the Gem June ones, of course. No, just kidding. Which strains work better? Do different strains work better for different diseases? Do combinations work better than single strains? Generally very safe, but there have been some reports of fungemia and bacteremia. However, most of those reports were in critically ill patients. They weren't in the patients that you're seeing every day. Occasional reports of lactobacillus infection even. However, this was not with probiotics produced in a pharmaceutical facility, encapsulated. It wasn't like that, or made in basically made in a pharmaceutical facility. These were probiotic drinks, yogurts, and things like that that were causing this effect, unfortunately. And there was only one that was actually confirmed with the exact same strain as the probiotic. In this study, 74 interventional studies showed that probiotic and symbiotic administration in children between the ages of 0 and 18 is not associated with increased health risk. So you don't have to worry about safety. Wild versus domesticated. I like this one. God, I might need a couple more minutes. So you've heard the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Anybody heard that saying before? No? All right. So one of the things to realize is in your gut, your microbes, they have decades of experience, some more experience than others. Not only that, you have generational experience. Where do you get your first inoculation? Where? Not vaccines, come on. Birth canal, right? Where's that coming from? Your mother. So you're getting microbes that form the core of that microbiome. Remember, we had the core microbiome, the variable, and the transient. And they have generational experience on producing certain vitamins, certain things that your body needs, as well as defending against various pathogenic organisms. It isn't just like, something that has, like a police officer that has 25 years on the force. You got like a whole army that has generations of experience, hundreds of years even. So now we compare that to some of the more commercially available ones. Well, these guys are sitting on the beach, sipping Mai Tais, relaxing, smoking shisha. They don't have a care in the world. They don't have to fight for food. They have a pristine environment, temperature controlled, whatever kind of nutrients that particular strain needs. So what they found in some research is that they fail to express important genes that are in proteins that prepare them for life in the wild, in the gut, I mean. So there are some differences between how some of these microbes are produced, what kind of environments they're produced in, and how they're going to affect when they actually come into the gut. And that's probably why that other theory that I showed you with the, is it here? I don't know if I had it again. Yeah, with this, where you have the core, you have the transient, you have the variable. Most likely that's the reason why, because those microbes cannot survive because they don't have those generations or decades of experience. Now, with regards to studies, probiotic for IBS, this is just one particular, not particular species, but we're talking one particular strain. Lactobacilli has hundreds of species, of strains. This is one strain, and there's 80 plus studies on it. Just one. Okay, almost that's 6. I have 6 minutes and 7 seconds. So anyway, all right, some more studies here on that as well. We got a few, because I want to talk about spore probiotics too, because those are kind of cool. Here we show that probiotics can inhibit heavy metal, cadmium absorption. Where's the predominant source of cadmium that people get exposed to? I know you know this one. Anybody else? Cigarettes. Oh, okay, yeah, he got it. He was thinking, all right. So now this is one of the tests that we have at IMC is a comprehensive stool analysis, and we can look at the FB ratio. So you have Firmicutes and Bacteroidetes. Try to say that fast. And this study was looking at their role in the ratio with the treatment of obesity and inflammatory bowel disease. Firmicutes are the gram-positive bacteria that mainly play a role in nutrition and metabolism through short-chain fatty acid synthesis. And Bacteroidetes are gram-negative associated with immunomodulation. Remember the gram-negative bacteria with the LPS and everything that we talked about earlier? Now these are certain specific probiotics that have been found to reduce weight and decrease the FB ratio. So when you do like a comprehensive stool analysis, you'll see the FB ratio. And then you can see, oh, well, hey, I want to increase this or I want to decrease that. For inflammatory bowel disease, you'd want to increase the FB ratio with probiotics such as these, which help with immunosuppression and protective effects on the intestines. This is the 2015 Yale-Harvard Consensus Opinion on various conditions and effectiveness, ABC, you can see many, and various strains of organisms. I'm going to send you all these slides, don't worry about it. So you'll have all of this for your own knowledge. Everything from allergies and everything. Now this VSL-3, this is a commercially available marketed probiotic, but we're not going to talk about that. But anyway, it's out there. Main clinical trials involving children and the effects of probiotics with neurological diseases as well. This is IBS and dose-dependent improvement. This was less than 10 billion and over 10 billion. And you can see with the increased dose, it actually had better effects. Saccharomyces boulardii is a non-colonizing, non-pathogenic yeast that increases secretory IgA production, mostly used in post-antibiotic, C. diff, and candida infections. Also produces secretory IgA and short-chain fatty acids. Here's how you would treat it with C. diff infection, let's say, with your normal treatment. Spore-based probiotics, these are really cool, I think, anyway. As a microbiologist, you think they're kind of cool too? So spore-based probiotics are, imagine they're in this spore form, so they are inactive. They have this like armor-like shell. They're protected from the low pH of the stomach. Now they make their way down to the small intestine, more favorable, nutrient-rich environment, right? Now they emerge from the endospore shell and transform into their active vegetative state and start doing all the things that probiotics do. They have a longer transit time, mostly about 3 to 4 weeks compared to some probiotics. I'm sure we're going to be talking about others, maybe they have more, but the majority of them only have maybe 4 to 7 days. But remember, that's okay. Probiotics are part of that transient microbiome, remember? The 3 microbiomes in one. So it just needs to be taken over and over again, unfortunately, in order to make the major influence on that core microbiome. Let's see, same benefits as the other ones. We were talking about the widespread effects. These have the same widespread effects. And some research just actually came out, showed for SIBO had better outcomes than traditional probiotics like lactobacilli and low FODMAP diets. And decreases intestinal permeability. So if somebody has fibromyalgia, they have increased LPS on their blood work, and they have leaky gut, well then something like this would actually help them. Well, we're not going to talk about that one. That's the commercially available, but there is a lot of research. I think they just paid for a lot of research. That's why it's out there. But there is a lot with regards to Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. These are very high doses too. Some of them are upwards from 112 billion to 450 billion. Now this was an interesting one. I just got this yesterday. I just saw it. It came in my news feed, and I said, oh man, I got to include this one. So Prevotella was present in higher abundance in patients with mild cognitive impairment. And when they gave them this Lactobacilli rhamnosus GG, the Prevotella decreased, and at the same time coincided with improved cognitive scores. Why? Come on, somebody answer. You're not going to get any food later or anything unless you answer a question. Oh, now all the hands go up, right? All right. So there's a couple options there, right? One, either the high Prevotella was doing something to inhibit cognitive function, right? In which case, once it lowered, what happened? Cognitive impairment disappeared. Is that the case? Well, now it's possible. What if Prevotella, there's a molecular mimicry, we call it, where the microbe shares a amino acid sequence in its protein structure similar to some host tissue. What if it's a neurological tissue? Well, okay, well then if it's high, your immune system declares it shouldn't be there, even though it's a commensal microbe, then it finds it and it says, oh, let's initiate immune response. Now, while it's doing that, it sees this neurological tissue and says, hey, you're not supposed to be there, and starts attacking that. This is the basis for autoimmune disease. It's called molecular mimicry. So is that occurring? Possibly. What if what's happening is the lactobacilli, remember we talked about the functions of these probiotics and some of these microbes is production of neurotransmitters. Well, if you have relative excess of Prevotella, what does that mean by default? Something else is lowered, right? It has to work like this. This goes up, that goes down, and vice versa. So if that's the case, what if its particular microbe that's producing neurotransmitters is now decreased? If that's decreased, what's going to happen? Decreased cognition, right? And now you give the probiotic, well, this now goes up, that goes down. Now you're producing the appropriate neurotransmitters, and now you have improved cognitive function. So different ways to look at the exact same study. Almost done. Healthcare costs and societal impact. This is something that everybody wants to see, especially heads of departments and things. Conclusion, improved disease outcomes through use of probiotics translated into considerable cost savings for both the payer and society. I just ran out of time. Here are some basic suggestions for traveler's diarrhea, antibiotic-associated diarrhea, etc., IBS. If you're dealing with IBD, usually higher doses are necessary. These are a couple online sources if you want to check them out. Probiotic Advisor, it's subscription-based, but then you have Natural Medicine Database, and you have usprobioticguide.com, which is actually very good. Don't forget, all disease begins in the gut, and it's been a pleasure being here. I can't believe I got really close to my time. Let me get my, oh well. Sorry about that. it's really hard to get me to shut up once I start. So
Okay.
thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matthew, for this wonderful presentation, which was quite illustrative, demonstrating the science behind evidence on the applications and the benefits of probiotics in human health. So we received very well the science behind probiotics. And now we'll move, for the sake of the time, for the second speaker, who is Dr. Abdul Halim Al-Sharif. Special thanks for Dr. Al-Halim. He was supposed to be attending with us physically, but unfortunately he had a very bad flu. So that's why, for the sake of you, not to contract the disease, he decided to be online with us today. So we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, اللهم رب الناس أذهب البأس اشفي شفاء لا يغادر سقما. Dr. Abdul Halim, he's a consultant gastroenterology and hepatology, and he's the head of the endoscopy unit in Dr. Samir Abbas Hospital, assistant professor of gastroenterology and hepatology department of Al-Azhar University in Cairo. In 2012, obtained doctorate degree in gastroenterology and hepatology, and 2015, visiting Doctors of Research Association in Gastroenterology and Hepatology unit in Kyoto University Hospital, Kyoto in Japan. And in 2019, assessed by the Royal Australian College of Physicians as substantially comparable in gastroenterology and hepatology. In 2022, which was quite recent, consultant gastroenterology and hepatology and head of the endoscopy unit in Dr. Bakhsh hospitals. And Dr. Abdul Halim, he is going to shed a light on an important aspect of our topic today, which is the role of gut microbiota in functional gastroenterology disorder, the current understanding, and even beyond. So we would like to thank you, Dr. Abdul Halim, for being with us today, and we wish you a very soon recovery. I hope that your voice and your immune system will keep you strong enough to finish your presentation for us today. Thank you so much, and I'll leave the floor for you. I would like to mention that we have almost 5,000 attendees with us online, so I would like to welcome all of them here today, and I would like to urge all of them to put their questions in the Q&A box. So I'll be very pleased as a moderator to select those questions which is relevant to our speech today. And I would like to urge you, our guest attendees, just to prepare your questions and make it ready for me to forward it to our guest speaker at the end of this session. Thank you so much, and I will leave the floor for Dr. Abdul Halim.
I don't know if you can hear my voice or not. I'm trying to open the video, but I stated that the host has stopped it. So
yes, we can hear you, and we can see your screen as well.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Professor Ashraf Amir, for this kind invitation. I would like to thank also the inviting companies and the distinguished speakers on the floor. And actually, Dr. Matthew didn't give me a chance to say any slides. He just covered them all. So thank you, Dr. Matthew. I really enjoy your presentation. So briefly, we're going to speak about the role of the gut microbiota in functional GI disorders, our current understanding, and beyond. So let me start to, So according to the WHO and the Food and Agriculture Organization, probiotics are defined as non-pathogenic live microorganisms that, when administered in adequate amount, confer a health benefit on the host. And in 1857, Louis Pasteur was the first to discover the lactic acid bacteria. And in the beginning of 19th century, Matchenkov, a Russian scientist, reported that lactic acid bacteria may offer a health benefit. And in 1930, Dr. Shirota, the Japanese scientist, was the first to isolate the Lactobacillus casei strain. We have many commercially available strains in the market, but most of them are belonging to the Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium species. And there's increase in the orientations in the last decade regarding the probiotics, especially in the Middle East, with an increase in the market size, especially in Saudi Arabia also. The distribution of the intestinal microflora, as you know, varies in different parts of the GI tract, but estimates suggest that over 40 trillion bacterial cells are present in our colon. And there are many factors affecting the intestinal microbiota, including stress, drugs, smoking, infection, radiation, aging, diet, and even the method of delivery and breastfeeding. And over 1,500 trials have been published on probiotics, and evidence support that benefits are really measurable. And the probiotics, to be honest, act in a very unique mechanism of action. First, it competes for nutrition by compete against the pathogen for the essential nutrients, and it also blocking the adhesion sites through reducing the available ground surface for the pathogenic colonization. And they also produce antitoxin, including hydrogen peroxide, bacteriocins, organic acids that definitely help to control the pathogenic bacteria. It also activates the macrophage to increase the IgA, the cytokines production, which target the pathogen for destruction. And it also maintains the barrier function through stimulate the mucin secretions and enhance the tight junction. It also reduced the pH, which is definitely unfavorable for the pathogen. So what are the indications of the probiotics? The first indication is IPS, or what we call the irritable bowel syndrome. And we have many causes and triggering factors for IPS. One of them is the stress and also dysbiosis. And when we got stress, either physically or psychologically, this is what leads to the release of the corticotropin releasing hormone in the hypothalamus, which end up into increase the cortisol secretion in the adrenal gland, changing the microbiota profile, ending up into alteration in the permeability of the intestine, and finally dysbiosis. And when we got dysbiosis, this is what leads to the cytokine release, especially interleukin-1p and tumor necrosis factor. And when we found this three factor, the cytokine release, dysbiosis, alteration, and the permeability, this all three factor leads to what we call the altered cognition, behavioral changes, and again, this leads to stress, to what we call the gut-brain axis. So both affect each other. So when we have the probiotic, this is interfere with this algorithm. So it definitely improved the symptoms of the IPS. And it was for the first time, the British guidelines in 2021, they stated the probiotics, not in the second line, but in the first line treatment for patients with IPS. And they stated that probiotics may be effective for global symptom improvement, and treatment should be given up to 12 weeks. Also, the Japanese guidelines in 2022 followed the British guidelines, and with the strong recommendations, 100% agreed that probiotics are effective in treating IPS. The American guidelines in 2018, they suggest that probiotics is definitely can improve the global symptoms like bloating and flatulence on IPS patient. But again, in 2020, they suggest against the probiotics, which is a little bit confusing, 2 years difference, one supporting and the other one is suggesting against. And they stated that studies are still small, single centered, and doesn't follow up the rigorous guidelines set up by the US FDA. Until we got the recent guidelines in Feb 2023 by the World Gastroenterology Organizations, and actually they provide us with a group of indications. First, of course, is the diarrhea. Definitely there's a strong evidence of the efficacy of the probiotics in treating the acute diarrhea, antibiotic-associated diarrhea, and radiation-induced diarrhea. And some talks, especially in the last decade, stated that a probiotic can definitely reduce the side effects of the antibiotic treatment during the H. pylori infection. And they also increasing the eradication rate of the antibiotics through decreasing the growth and adhesions of the H. pylori. But recently, another talks about that it can be used as a monotherapy for H. pylori infection without even using the antibiotics. And the Maastricht and Florence consensus last year, they stated that antibiotic is effective in reducing the GI side effects and also can increase the eradication rate. And interesting study published in the World Journal of Gastroenterology, and they stated that this, by the way, this study is a systemic review of meta-analysis of more than 11 studies, most of them either randomized, single-blind, or double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, and some of this study shows significant improvement in the eradication rate as a monotherapy using the probiotics as the monotherapy for treatment of H. pylori infection patients. And another study published in the Springer, they stated also that probiotics may have a beneficial effect of H. pylori eradications. However, the dosage, strain, duration, we still need further study. One of the indication is IBD, and we have established indication by both the AGA and the WGO that probiotics can definitely improve the pouchitis in patients with IBD. But in ulcerative colitis, although the probiotics have been found to be very safe, but still no guidelines until now approval. And the American guidelines stated that usage of probiotics is still under the context of clinical trial. Also, the American College of Gastroenterology stated that probiotics still need further study with adequate power and clarification of endpoints for patients with ulcerative colitis. Other indication is lactose malabsorption, and we all know that lactase can convert the lactose into glucose and galactose. And when we have a lactase deficiency, this will lead to accumulation of the lactose with subsequent abdominal distension, excessive flatulence. And two strains, especially the Streptococcus thermophilus and Lactobacillus species, to what we called produce the beta galactosidase enzyme that break down the lactose and reduce the symptoms of lactose malabsorption. Another talks about the colorectal cancer prevention. We all know that the probiotics increase the beneficial bacteria and decrease the harmful bacteria, and this will definitely decrease the toxins and inflammation. It also have a beneficial mucosal effect by enhancing the tight junction. So it's also decreasing the pH, as we said before. One of the interesting talks about prevention in the colorectal cancer that the probiotics can inhibit both enzymes, nitroreductase and beta-glucuronidase, and both enzymes have the ability to change the pro-carcinogenic substance into carcinogenic material. So by inhibition of these two enzymes, we can reduce the and prevent the colorectal cancer. It also increases cytokines, phagocytosis, and increase the apoptosis, which decrease the tumor cells. Another study, retrospective study actually, assessing 21 clinical trials between the period of 2007-2017, and this 21 clinical trial concluded that probiotics can significantly decrease the inflammatory factor, chemotherapy side effects, severe diarrhea, post-operative infection complication, and duration of antibiotic therapy. And another study published in the Cochrane talking about hepatic encephalopathy, and they concluded that probiotics probably improve the overt hepatic encephalopathy and plasma ammonia concentration. But still, until now, with the latest guideline, the European Association of the Study of Liver Disease last year, they didn't until now mention the probiotics in the guidelines of treatment of hepatic encephalopathy patients. Another indication is constipation, and we have to differentiate between the functional constipation and IPS predominant constipation by room 4 criteria. Because in IPS predominant constipation, we already have approval at the first line treatment with patient with IPS with predominant constipation according to the British and the Japanese guidelines. But regarding the functional constipation, until now, we got no guideline approval, although probiotics show benefits also in patients with functional constipation. Other indication is a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and we all know to what we call the multiple hit theory. And one of the factors of the multiple hit theory is altered intestinal flora. And when we got alteration in the intestinal flora, this will lead to two issues: production of the fatty acids in the bowel and increase the permeability. And this will lead to the uncontrolled passage of microbes and microbial products into the portal vein, going to the liver, leading to NASH, and finally cirrhosis. And an interesting randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study in 2019 assessing small number of patients and divided the patient into two groups. The arm was probiotics, another arm was placebo, and they found significant improvement in the hepatic fat concentration using the probiotic arm comparing to placebo. And we are waiting for the PRO-BioLiver trial protocol, which is a double-blind randomized clinical trial. Still, we are waiting for the result to see the effect of the probiotic in non-alcoholic steatohepatitis patients. But I still have many questions in my mind when I think about the probiotics. So the first question, what is the recommended dosage and for how long we should use? Actually, it is not possible to state a single dose for all the probiotics. Actually, the dose needed depends greatly on the strain, product, and the disease given for. However, most over-the-counter are between 1 to 10 billion colony-forming unit per dose. And the WHO guideline this year stated that each strain should be specific for each disease with a recommended dosage. For example, the antibiotic-associated diarrhea, we need to give certain strain with certain dose, prevention of CD, Clostridium difficile, H. pylori, liver disease, NAFLD, IPS, NASH, IBD with pouchitis. So each disease has supposed to have certain strain with certain dosage according to the latest guidelines provided by the WHO. And the European Society for Primary Care Gastroenterology stated that probiotics should be given for at least 1 month. So the minimum course of probiotics should be at least 1 month, and some guidelines, as we said before, like the British guidelines, can be given up to 3 months. So second question is, using one strain is better or multiple strain is better? Theoretically, when you talk about using many strains should be better, but this is unnecessarily true. And over 1,500 reviews concluded that adding more strain doesn't essentially giving a good result. In fact, some bacteria have inhibitory effect on each other. And so the recommendation is to use certain probiotic strains specifically for certain disease, as we mentioned in the previous slide. Is it safe to use in elderly and immunocompromised patients? Yes, the answer is yes. It is. Even in my experience, I don't know, I didn't even hear about anyone have any complication. But in some studies, just a few number up to 0.4% of patient, of elderly patients showed some bacterial sepsis, fungemia, and endocarditis, which is, in my opinion, extremely rare. Is there any a gap or time period between several courses of probiotics? This means that I already finished my first course and I've been taken for 1 month. So what is the time period that I should wait to start the next course of probiotics? Or I can start immediately. So still now, we don't have any data available to guide us to this question. This question we already answered. All probiotics are not suitable for every disease. It's about that each probiotic strains are specifically needed for each specified disease. Do probiotics have any benefits for generally healthy people? That means that I'm completely normal person. I don't suffer from any disease or any symptoms. Can I use the probiotics? Some studies show that it can improve the common upper respiratory tract infection. It can improve the mild hypercholesterolemia. So I encourage everyone to take it. What are the characteristics for the good probiotics? The first characteristic, in my opinion, is long time of colonization. This is the main problem that we face with the probiotics, that once the patient finishes the course, probably after 1 week later, he started again to have the symptoms of bloating, GI symptoms, discomfort. So I think this is the main problem. This is, in my opinion, of the probiotics. As long as the patient use the probiotics, he feel very comfortable. Once he stop it, again, symptoms recur. So in my opinion, the effective the probiotics, the longer the colonizations. Should also able to survive capable of exerting a beneficial effect on the host, safe transportation through the stomach in high acidity, beneficial effect on disease progression, identification of strain, anti-inflammatory effect, non-pathogenic and non-toxic with high efficacy. So in conclusion, it's time to start using the probiotics, and thank you. I don't know if they can open the camera for me.
Correct, Dr. Abdul Halim. Thank you so much for your illustrative presentation. You shed light on the role of gut microbiota in functional and gastrointestinal disorder, the current understanding and beyond. And I like very much the questions that you have put at the end of your presentation. So you have answered almost all the questions I have, so I'm not going to give you any one to be answered. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we will move to the third guest speaker, who is very distinguished, and he came all the way from Korea, I believe, Professor Moyoung So Park. He's the CEO of Bifido Company. He was the research scholar, University of California, Davis, in 2017 to 2018, professor at Yangtze University, and director of Bifido Company and Research Center, and postdoc in Department Food Nutrition, and was a special researcher at the Research Institute of Agriculture and Life Science. And he was a researcher and teaching assistant in Department of Food Science Technology in Seoul, and has a lot of research and about 100 publications. His research background are on food microbiology and biotechnology, molecular biology of the genus Bifidobacterium, which is a probiotic, development of food-grade expression system based on the genus Bifidobacterium, screening and development of probiotics, functions, food based on probiotics, and many others, in fact. And he's going to conclude our session by his own presentation, which is exploring the gut microbiome through the bifidobacterium-based immune modulations. This is another interesting session for all of us to learn. And I would like to welcome you here in Saudi Arabia and Jeddah, and hope you will enjoy your stay with us. And I would like to welcome you on the stage, please. Thank you so much.
This is my first trip to Saudi Arabia, and hometown is around 5 in the morning. Yeah, marhaban, masar hayri. I'm Myung Park, CEO of Bifido, and today I feel honored to introduce Bifido and share our research findings with all of you in this event. I'd like to express my gratitude to the members of Jamjum Pharmaceuticals and Saudi Society of Family and Community Medicine who have made this event possible. The title of my presentation today is Exploring the Gut Microbiome through Bifidobacteria-based Immune Modulation. Bifido is a company aims to become the general global #1 in the probiotics and microbiome field. By doing so, the company seeks to promote the happiness of its employees and our partners and contribute to the improvement of human health and well-being. Bifido is a Korean company founded in 1999 based on the research result of Korean gut microbiota. We have launched our first product in 2001, and in 2003, Bifido was designated as the National Research Laboratory of Probiotics in Korea, which enabled us to conduct in-depth research for 10 years. In 2006, Bifido obtained GMP factory approval from Korean FDA and began full-scale production of health functional probiotic products. Bifido has been exporting its product since 2007, and currently exports account for a larger share of revenue than domestic sales. In particular, Bifido established an office in China in 2013 to open up the Chinese market, and then established a branch office in 2019 to focus on market expansion. Our flagship strains, Bifidobacterium strain BGN4, and Bifidobacterium longum strain Bori, and Bifidobacterium lactis 8001, were the first in Korea to receive GRAS and NDI certification from the US FDA. Based on this achievement, Bifido was listed on Korean stock market in December 2018 as the first microbiome company in Korea. In September 2021, Bifido was acquired by Amicogen Group. In 2022, we established a clinical development division to promote the development of microbial therapeutics, which had been in progress since 2017. Bifido's core business areas are probiotics, health functional food, and microbiome therapeutics development based on the microbiome accelerating platform technology. They are our management team. Mr. Shin Yong-chul and myself is the co-CEO, and we have 6 divisions, including clinical development, sales, R&D, manufacturing, management, and branch in Shanghai. Each division is led by experts in their respective field. Our headquarters in Hongcheon is undergoing expansion, and by the end of 2024, our microbiome center under construction in Seoul will accommodate R&D, clinical development, sales, and management divisions, fostering synergies. Compared to other competitors, Bifido has a strong track record of research experience on the genus Bifidobacterium, with a number of successful preclinical results. We also have a platform technology that covers everything from strain development to product manufacturing, as well as Bifidobacteria Express platform technology that can maximize the utilization of selected strains by using genetic engineering. In addition, Bifido has excellent global partnerships that can deliver our research results to the consumers. Our intensive research on Bifidobacteria was conducted with the support of over 60 government projects. As a result, we have published over 250 SCI papers and filed over 80 patents in support of the efficacy of our own Bifidobacterium strains. We have developed a microbiome accelerating platform technology that integrates the following key technologies: isolation and banking of anaerobic Bifidobacteria, physiological activity evaluation of isolated strains, basic evaluation for commercialization, and safety evaluation at the FDA GRAS level, efficacy evaluation through animal and human trials, and large-scale production and product development. This technology allows Bifido to rapidly evaluate and industrialize any candidate strains. We have secured an impressive pipeline of studies on our strains through collaborative research with numerous universities and institutions. Our probiotic strains, shown in this slide, show the gut colonization and specific health improvement, such as atopic dermatitis, IBS, and ulcerative colitis, rotavirus infection, rheumatoid arthritis, kidney health, cognition and mood, constipation, for example. These research findings are delivered to our customers through partnerships with Korea and globally. Today, I visited several pharma shops like Nakti, United Pharmacy in this area, and found that Pro-Life is displayed and sold to the Saudi Arabian consumers. I believe that it will help to improve health and well-being of Saudi Arabian, thanks to the dedicated effort of Jamjun Pharma members for that. Bifido currently operates GMP process for the production of probiotics, raw materials, and finished product. We can process 35 kiloliters of fermentation capacity per week. These are the probiotic strains developed and industrialized Bifido, including our flagship strains BGN4, Bori, AD01, and various other probiotic strains. All of which strains have their own characteristics, morphologies. Using these raw materials, we manufacture products for gut care, immune balance, oral care, and skin care of infants, families, and adults, including women. Our strains have received certifications such as GRAS and NDI from the US FDA and have been designated as world-class product of Korea by the Korean government. And BGN4 strain will be enlisted in US Pharmacopoeia. Now, Now let's discuss why bifidobacteria is so special and important in the microbiome era. The term microbiome refers to the entire microbial community of a given environment, including all their genetic material. In the human gut, around 100 trillion microorganisms reside, surpassing the number of human cells by tenfold. These microorganisms possess over 100 times more genes than the human genome, with variations of 10 to 20% between individuals. Research has shown that these variations have a strong correlation with up to 90% of diseases of the whole body. The microbiome era has emerged with the advent of next generation sequencing analysis, the establishment of germ-free animal models, advancement in non-culturable microbial culturing techniques, and the ability to analyze multi-omics data. Jeffrey Gordon's study about relationship between obesity and intestinal microbiome have shed light on the value of the microbiome. Numerous studies correlating diseases with the microbiome are published annually. More 30,000 papers concerning the microbiome are published these days. As a result, 2 microbiome-based therapies were approved by the end of last year, both targeting recurrent Clostridium difficile infection. Rebiota utilized a fecal microbiota transplantation-like method, while SER-109 is a capture of bacterial consortia. Both showed clinical outcomes with no recurrence in 71% and 88% of cases, respectively. These cases involve utilizing healthy donors' feces or processed spore-forming bacteria for therapeutic purposes. So, what is a healthy microbiome? Many researchers in the field emphasize the importance of maintaining a balance between good and harmful bacteria. Then, what is good and bad bacteria? The paper published in Nature provides insight into healthy microbiome. This study used high-resolution NGS data from 4,347 people, including 2,636 healthy people, to develop a gut microbiota health index. They suggested 7 species of bacteria that are more common in healthy people and 43 species of bacteria that are more common in unhealthy people. The notable part is that 3 of the 7 health index bacteria are bifidobacteria. This means that bifidobacteria play an important role in the health index bacteria. There are other bacteria, but they cannot be consumed immediately. In other studies, it was shown that B. longum and B. adolescentis were more prevalent in healthy individuals with increased production of butyric acid, suggesting a strong correlation between the presence of bifidobacteria and gut health. In our rheumatoid arthritis study, NGS analysis of rheumatoid arthritis patients showed dysbiosis and related changes in key microbial species when compared to normal person. In particular, it was found that the decrease in bifidobacteria was more severe according to the severity of the disease. So we screened for the best bifidobacterium strains to recover the normal balance. When RA model mouse was administered the selected bifidobacterium strain for reducing inflammation in rheumatoid arthritis, we found that it was effective as the standard treatment, methotrexate. Bifidobacteria are classified as probiotics, but they are distinct from typical lactobacillus. They thrive exclusively in the oxygen-free, anaerobic environment and produce not only lactic acid, but also acetic acid. This acetic acid has superior antimicrobial activity compared to lactic acid, effectively inhibiting the growth of harmful bacteria. And taxonomically, they are classified different above the phylum level of typical lactic acid bacteria, and they exhibit numbers in the colon compared to the regular lactic acid bacteria. The health benefits of bifidobacteria can be observed in various areas, including gut health, bone health, antimicrobial activity, infection prevention and cancer effect, immune regulation, mental health improvement, inflammation reduction, and more. As you can see, genus bifidobacteria, which is essential for improving overall health, gradually decreases with age, leading to various health issues. Therefore, we need a strategy to recover or maintain normal bifidobacteria level to maintain our healthy gut microbiome. However, it is important to recognize that not all probiotics are created equal, which means that probiotic efficacy is strain-specific. Bifido employs a strategic screening process to select the best strain for gut health, autoimmune disease, urinary tract infection, cognitive function, and more. Furthermore, we have confirmed that when these strains are consumed, they reach and proliferate in the intestine, inhibiting harmful bacteria and promote a healthy gut microbiome. We can monitor at a strain-specific way. After consumption, we can observe a rapid decrease in bacteria such as Prevotella, Clostridium. But remember that these effects are strain-specific. Bifidobacteria that reach and proliferate in the intestine play a role in not only antimicrobial activity against harmful bacteria, but also in interacting with immune cells in the gut. They help regulate the differentiation of T cells, suppressing excessive inflammatory responses, and strengthening tight junctions in intestinal epithelial cells. Immune cells formed in the gut and the cytokines they produce spread throughout the body via bloodstream, influencing overall health. Taking BGN4 strain as an example, it has excellent adhesive properties to intestinal epithelium, which allows it to regulate the immune cells and create new bioactive metabolites such as GABA, exopolysaccharide, and SAM. We are continuing to discover health functional probiotic strains. Here is the clinical trial schedule for health functional foods currently underway, addressing constipation, halitosis, atopic dermatitis, urinary tract infection, cognition, gum health, vaginal health, joint health, and body fat reducing using probiotics. The following is Bifido's pipeline for live biotherapeutics. Currently, we are focusing on developing live biotherapeutics for autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis and systemic sclerosis, and neurological disorders such as Alzheimer's diseases and depression, with potential consideration for veterinary medicine also. Finally, let me introduce the pro-life product developed in collaboration with Jamjun Pharma. Pro-life Premium, Shield, and Baby, 3 innovative products. Pro-life are symbiotic product which contains selected probiotics, strains, and prebiotics for each strain. Pro-life Premium is a probiotic product for the whole family. It contains 4 strains of probiotics and prebiotics to help maintain a healthy gut microbiome. ProShield is a probiotic product designed to strengthen the immune system of adults. It contains 5 strains of probiotics, prebiotics, and zinc, which is known to enhance immune function. This helps to maintain a healthy balance of gut microbiota and strengthen the immune system. Pro-Life Baby is a probiotic product for infants aged 3 months to 35 months. It contains 4 strains of probiotics and prebiotics, including Bifidobacterium longum, which has been shown to improve the symptoms of rotavirus infection. Pro-Life Baby can help to improve the balance of gut microbiota, regulate immune functions, and relieve diarrhea of the infant. Let's summarize today's talk. Microbiome study revealed that Bifidobacterium is the most important bacteria for healthy gut microbiome. However, Bifidobacterium decreases according to the age, and we need to recover it. The best way to recover it is to supply well-studied and evidence-based Bifidobacterium strains with prebiotics for each strain. Bifido can give the answer for this matter now. Yeah, the answer is Pro-Life, I think. I believe that Pro-Life will help to improve the general intestinal health and whole body health of the Saudi Arabian people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Mayung So Park, for this wonderful presentation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, online audience and physically attending guests, we will start our Q&A session. So I would like to request Dr. Matthew, please, to be on the stage. And we have online with us Dr. Abdul Halim Sharif, so please stay tuned with us. In fact, before I start, because I have received many questions, I have received many questions from the online audience, so I would just leave the floor here for the questions from you. If you have any questions in the attendees in the hall here. Anyone? Okay. Okay. Right, all right. So we will start the questions. There is a clear statement which has been ما واضح السؤال ما هو مكتوب معه. طيب please just go ahead. Can we have a mic here please?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have one question to ask about a probiotic. Is he has any role in kidney affection or hemodialysis patient? Thank you.
Yeah. Any role in kidney infections, in urinary tract infections or urinary tract infections?
So, can you ask again? I'm sorry. Can you ask again?
I ask about the probiotic rules in kidney affection disease or in hemodialysis patient. Has role or no? Thank you.
Hemodialysis patients who are getting hemodialysis and kidney infections.
We did clinical trials about patients with hemodialysis because of the kidney malfunctions. And we got the result that the intake of probiotics, such as bifidobacterium, bifidum, BGM4, and bori strains, improved inflammatory biomarkers, but they did not have an effect on the actual efficacy. But it improves the inflammatory biomarkers.
Okay, thank you. There is a question for you, Dr. Abdul Halim. As we have stated in your presentation that not all the probiotics are the same. And there is many of them in the market. And today we have learned about the bifido strain probiotics. So if you just can highlight what is the proper way to choose among the different varieties we have in the market based on the efficacy, the safety, and durability. And what is the indication that can be used in certain common health issues that we encounter in primary care? Please. Dr. Abdul Halim, معنا?
Yes, Dr. Ashraf, I'm with you, yes. الحقيقة Dr. Ashraf asked a very difficult question. For us, even us, we don't know for sure until we got the as we mentioned, the latest guidelines this year, which specify certain strains for each disease. So, but if you're gonna think about it, we're gonna find that most of the companies are when they launching a probiotics, most of them selecting like maybe a single strain, double strain, maybe a few strains. So they are not gonna cover all the disease. So it's very difficult question to be answered, to be honest. But if we're gonna stick to the guidelines, so it's about that the manufacturing companies try to specify certain strain for each disease. And if you're gonna notice, Dr. Ashraf, some companies started to do that. I think something with the voice.
Okay, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
So some companies started practically to select certain strain for each disease. So this is the typical, this is the ideal, but most of the strain have benefit on the health. So the recommendation, or if we want to follow the guidelines, so we can each company should make like a selection for each disease with certain strains. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for. Associations.
The role of probiotics and vitamin D deficiency, or the role of vitamin D deficiency
In probiotics,
the
yeah.
microbiome?
Yeah.
Because actually, that was one of the slides I had, what
Okay.
mentioned as far as vitamin
maybe
D
this
deficiency
was,
and oh, sorry about that. Vitamin D deficiency. I have a loud voice, it usually projects anyway. But so vitamin D deficiency can lead to changes in the microbiome. But what was the exact question about probiotics and vitamin D?
Deficiency. Any associations?
Well, there is, when you say probiotics, you're talking about a product that you're taking.
Yeah,
So,
microbiome.
so if you're, well, now that's different. So if you're talking about microbiome and vitamin D deficiency, yes. If you're talking about probiotic, taking a probiotic, and is that going to somehow help your vitamin D deficiency, then I would say probably not.
Okay.
But if you're talking about influence, will vitamin D influence the microbiome? Absolutely.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Professor Mayung, what is the role of Bifido strain probiotics in the prevention of disease? If there is any trials to prevent certain disease like diabetes, pre-diabetes, or even cardiovascular disease?
Yeah, because the probiotic effects is very strain dependent, so we have to depend on the clinical trials result about the efficacy of each strains. So we can say that our strains have an effect. They can colonize in the intestine after intake,
Yes.
and they can improve the atopic dermatitis, IBS, IBD, and ulcerative colitis, and constipations, and it also improved the cognition of the elderly persons. All of those are strain dependent, and they are can be supported by the scientific papers.
So one thing to understand is that, so in human breast milk, there's something called HMO, which is human milk oligosaccharides. Babies can't digest it. Why is it there? Why is it there? Any idea? It builds bifidobacterium. Bottom line. So if you need to know anything about it, honestly, that's it. God put it in human milk, and babies can't digest it. It's there for one reason only, and that's to build bifidobacterium. So, you drop the mic on that one.
Okay. There is a question here. Anyone can answer it. What is the recommended dose daily? And there is a different concentrations from 2 to 10 billions. Usually there is a different strain together at the market. So is it okay to give multiple strain together or multiple bacteria together? Yes, please.
Yeah, I think that it all depends on the strains which was used in the clinical trials. The dosage of the clinical trials is we can believe of the dosage. It is for that strain, the dosage is very good if it is supported by the scientific evidence.
Okay. After the use of antibiotics, if there is any special recommendations to start the probiotics for longer period to retain the microbiota or the microbiome again in the gut? Okay. Any recommendations?
Well, one recommendation is if you do take it, don't take the probiotic within a couple hours of the antibiotic, obviously. So what I usually do is tell them to take it at opposite times a day. So if you're taking the antibiotic in the morning, take the probiotic at night, something of that nature. And then after you finish the probiotic, the antibiotic, continue the probiotic for another month afterward, at least.
Dr. Abdul Halim, as you know, the probiotic concept and putting it in the real world practice is still quite new for most of us here. How do you look into the future of microbiotics in our clinical day-to-day practice? What are the profile of patients? What are the most common cases that we can implement it in primary care from your own perspective as your specialty is a gastroenterologist?
First, Dr. Ashraf, I want to comment about the previous question that
Yes.
using one strain or multiple strains, which is better. So as we mentioned, sometimes single strain is very helpful in certain diseases. And so adding more strains, obviously, with multiple studies, doesn't necessarily to be effective more. As we mentioned, the recommendation is to select strain which is specific for each disease. Regarding in the future, if you noted the statistical regarding the recent studies and recent statistics this year, you will find marvelous increase either in the usage or in the market size of the probiotics. And as we mentioned, there's increased orientations. Even the simple people in the daily clinic ask about the probiotics. We never see this before in the clinic. If you compare to the last decade, it is very, very, very rare that some patient or any patients ask for the probiotics. But now on daily basis, we see the patient giving us many questions regarding the probiotics, what its benefits, what is the indications, if I'm going to use the probiotics. So the orientation definitely increased, especially in the last couple of years.
In one of your slides, you mentioned the role of microbiotics in prevention of colorectal cancer, which was a very interesting trial. Can you just highlight this trial, please?
Yes, there are many pathogenesis that may help in these studies, and this is, by the way, only two studies I offered, but actually there are many studies talking about probiotics prevention in colorectal cancer patients, and the pathogenesis or the area that probiotics increases, as we mentioned, the beneficial bacteria and decreases the harmful bacteria. On the contrary to the antibiotics, which kill both beneficial and harmful. So the probiotics get that advantage that promotes the beneficial bacteria, thus decreasing the inflammations, decreasing the necrosis, improving the tight junction, the mucosal effect. As we mentioned, also recently they discovered that inhibit two enzymes, and these two enzymes have the ability to change the carcinogenic material into the non-carcinogenic material into carcinogenic material. So when inhibiting these enzymes, thus we're preventing this process of any carcinogenic change. This is one of the factors also. They said also that it increased the apoptosis by increasing the cytokine release. So this is also one of the factors that may help in prevention of the colorectal cancer. Until now, we don't have this confirmed or the definite conclusion with the guidelines, but many studies have shown the benefit, even preoperative or even decreasing the postoperative complication, as we saw in one slide with meta-analysis of 21 studies.
Okay, thank you so much. Well said, Dr. Abdul Halim. Any questions from the audience here? Yeah, we have many. Dr. Khalid? Yeah, we have only 10 minutes to close the session, so we'll go fast.
Thank you for the lectures, very rich knowledge. But there is one question, but so on the ground, we are still facing a problem with the insurance company in passing the probiotics for patients, and the patients will find it's cash. Most patients, I don't think they try to take it, or so I don't know about the experience in Korea. If the probiotics are under insurance, with the private companies or the Ministry of Health or whatever?
There are probiotic product in Korea as a pharma medicine, which is under insurance, but the functional food, it is not covered by insurance.
I think the main problem is that it was registered under Saudi FDA as a food supplement, and this is one of the things. But I think it's a new step, for us to understand exactly how to implement the probiotic in our day-to-day practice. And then once we gain the confidence on having this to be part of our day-to-day prescription, definitely there will be a role of us to advocate, and then the role of the scientific society to appeal, for the CHI, to reinforce the concept of the importance of these products and the full management, in the management of the patient in total, in fact. As you know, this probiotic will not substitute the current medications, but it will be an additive value. So this is what we are looking for. By the time I think we'll be reaching to that stage where we'll be having the insurance company covering it. Please go ahead.
Well, one thing you can do is tell them, insurance also doesn't cover good food, So, and remember, one of the biggest ways that you can actually influence the microbiome is through diet. So they can take probiotics every day for the rest of their life. If they don't make those basic changes, you're going to be taking probiotics for the rest of your life because you're not giving what's necessary for them to thrive. So, I have never once had a patient say, I can't afford this, or I'm not going, my insurance doesn't cover this. If you're confident in what you are recommending for the patient will spend whatever it takes in order to get better. So part of it is about, you understanding why you are prescribing it, explaining to the patient the ins and outs, justifying why you are prescribing it. That's also a big thing. If you want insurance coverage, you have to be able to justify why you're doing it. I do all kinds of comprehensive tests and stool analysis, and one of the enzymes that the doctor was talking about earlier was beta-glucuronidase, and we actually test it at IMC. We have comprehensive stool analysis, check the microbiome, all of this stuff. Insurance doesn't cover it. But I never have a patient say no, and they spend several thousand reals in order to pay for this, because when I explain it to them and why they need it, they just do it because the bottom line is they want to be better.
Yeah, I think once the patient experiences the benefits of these products, he will be the advocate.
Absolutely.
And they will be ready to pay for cash,
Absolutely. It's like food. Just remember, it's not medicine, it's food.
For the sake of time, we have 1, 2, 3, please, quick.
One comment, Dr. Ashraf.
Mike, please. Mike.
But for the opposite side, what are the contraindications of probiotics?
Yeah. Any contraindications when you should not use probiotics? Any? We said we can use it even in immune-compromised patients.
From age 0 to 18.
Yeah, elderly patients with renal impairments. Mike, please, here.
In clinical practice, we find the patients with IBS and IBD with bacterial overgrowth and SIBO like this. Yes. Yes, it is possible to take and when to use the probiotics and what stage in this patient.
So for instance, when you have SIBO, there was one of the slides that I mentioned was
even in presence of SIBO.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we have another question here.
Doing a SIBO test, doing a SIBO breath test and seeing which bacteria phylum are probably excessive in the small intestine would be necessary, because then you know which species that you're dealing with before you actually give the treatment. And you can also, we have rifaximin here now too in Saudi Arabia. So you can do that and then follow up also with a probiotic as well.
Thanks for for this, productive information about the probiotic. Actually, we never think to use it before. We always say and comment about the French people, they like the probiotics 20, 30 years ago. Even I was practicing in the state for the last 3-4 months in Canada even. They never, nobody, there is no attention to probiotic. So now today you are overestimating, I think. Let's go limitation for probiotic only for gastrointestinal problems. In particular, our patient, we have chronic constipation, IBS. I think if we limit it on the gastrointestinal, plus I have to do regular stool analysis because we have here a lot of Entamoeba, Giardia, bacteria. Even I will do culture for Clostridium walshii. For example, I'm talking from practical point. Okay, the probiotic, if I have active infection or I have Entamoeba osteolytica or Giardia or ulcerative colitis. I'm sorry, I noticed the ulcerative and Crohn's disease. It has a rule, but I'm sorry. I'm just give this simple comment. We shouldn't go overestimating this. I just met a group of 9 Jewish colleagues in Cleveland. They went to Bulgaria because they discovered the people in one village in the mountain that they are living beyond 100 years. And they went there. They was the people for 20 days. They find out that they are using yogurt every night since they were 20 or 15 years.
Okay.
So simply now, I will add probiotic plus yogurt.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. We have a question here, if you don't mind, because we are running short of time. Please go ahead, Dr. Tfaddal.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I am asking in inflammatory bowel disease, especially ulcerative colitis. We have the patient sometimes we need to give him antibiotics for several crises of megacolon or anything. Is there any benefits of probiotic in inflammatory disease?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Can you answer, please?
No, absolutely. I use it every day. Now, one of the things now, I heard mentioned many times guidelines. Unfortunately, it takes years for things to enter guidelines, even after, I think the average is like 18 to 20 years, where things work in the practice, but then it takes that long for it actually to enter the guidelines. Unfortunately, if we wait until that without, using our common sense, our knowledge of pathophysiology, we're never going to move forward. So with regards to ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, I get patients every day, at least 1 or 2 Crohn's patients every day. And I ask every one of them, all right, did you ask, your primary physician, did you ask them why you got Crohn's disease? And they say, yeah. All right, what was the answer? We don't know. Okay. Did you ask them if you should change your diet, if it has anything to do with like that? And they said, oh yeah, I asked him. And he says, no, you can eat whatever you want. Diet has nothing to do with Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. So just listen to what's being said. You're saying first, I don't know what causes it. Oh, wait, but I know 100% diet and these things can't have anything to do with it. That makes no sense. It's not logical. You either know or you don't know. If you don't know, that means any of these things that we know can modulate the immune system, can stimulate the immune system, can cause a autoimmune cross-reactivity, whether it be a food or a microbe. Obviously, these are things that are in the intestines that they are exposed to multiple times a day. So if a food can cause an immune reaction, obviously that can trigger the immune response. If a microbial imbalance, whether it's a commensal bacteria, remember the pathogenic response to even a non-pathogenic microbe, or if it is an actual pathogenic microbe that is present, that can also stimulate the immune response. And then you have that molecular mimicry that I didn't really go into the details of it, but look that up. And that is going to initiate the immune cross-reactivity, which then causes the immune system to start attacking the intestines.
Okay.
So now, as far as probiotics there, remember one of the functions of probiotics, sorry, it's hard for me to shut up once I start. You're talking about the metabolic functions of those microbes, those probiotics are also pushing out any of those pathogenic microbes. They're all fighting for survival. So by giving them, even in a case where there is active infection, you're actually helping the body naturally get rid of that infection. They also are antagonistic. So if you pick the right strain for the right microbe you're trying to get rid of, you don't even need an antibiotic in order to get rid of it.
Okay, thank you so much. In fact, in primary, okay, because the last question, Doctor, تفضل.
About Dr. Abdul Halim, about Helicobacter bacteria, about the probiotic is the only benefit to treatment Helicobacter bacteria as he mentioned in his slide. Dr. Abdul Halim.
Dr. Abdul Halim, the question is for you. The use of probiotics in the treatment of H. pylori.
Yeah,
as like alone on its benefit.
As a monotherapy, yeah. So as like time before, I want to make a small comment on the previous question first. I totally agree with Dr. Matthew that especially in maybe in the last decade, there is increased orientation regarding the pathogenesis of diseases. For example, let me give you an example for the NAFLD or the non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. First, we started with the first head theory. Second, we moved to the second head theory, then the multiple head theory, and we discovered at the end that the microbiota has a significant role in the progression of the disease, which wasn't before. So probiotics, we discover, be put in the indications of the patient with NASH, with the patient with hepatic encephalopathy. So we have a rule every day, and every day there is new orientation regarding the pathogenesis. So I totally agree with you, Dr. Matthew, regarding this issue. Moving to the second question, that regarding the H. pylori, the first talk was about that it can reduce the side effect of the antibiotics. So when we take a triple therapy, two of them, or even the quadruple therapy with the 3 kinds of antibiotics, sometimes the patient have severe side effects like bloating. Sometimes they found that many studied that using the probiotics can for sure reducing the side effects. Then after that, we discovered that it also decreases increases the eradication rate by mechanism that is not fully understood, but they said that it decreases the attachment surface of the H. pylori to the mucosal surface of the stomach, so it loosens the attaches, so the H. pylori is killed. This is the most acceptable theory, and now. Yes, and now they talking about it can be used as the monotherapy.
Sorry, because we're running short of time, so thank you so much for your answer. Okay. And I just want like to mention that in family medicine, we're starting using probiotic for a couple of years in IBS and even inflammatory bowel disease with a good response from symptomology point of view. So coming to the end, ladies and gentlemen, the colleagues, I would like to thank you for your attendance, and I would like to thank our online attendees. Special thanks on your behalf will go to our faculty, guest speakers, Dr. Tracy Matthew, Dr. Abdul Halim Sharif, and Professor Dr. Mayung So Park. And we would like to thank the Saudi Society for Family and Community Medicine. Special and tremendous thanks goes to Jamjoom Pharma for making this scientific gathering more viable for us. A special thanks to Multaqa Al-Khibrat for their organizing. And I hope what we have learned today will be a very solid materials and solid experience for us to initiate the process of putting probiotics on the table of choices and to support the common medication that we use it, at least for the gastrointestinal disorders. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to wish you a very good night. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.